last recorded session, Abdurrahim John, he had asked about in the domain of the imagination, there was the idea of how to use the imagination, and that presentation was about mainly the visual aspect of the imagination, the idea of in the domain of Musavir, the one who makes forms, and Sheikh Ibn al-Arabi has a teaching about the imagination and how to use the imagination, and it was based on the account of the angel Gabriel visiting the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he was asking the Prophet Muhammad about the nature of Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. And in that account regarding Ihsan, which we could translate as anything from ethics, character, beauty, you see? He said, well, Ihsan is to worship God as if you see Him. See? And ta'abudullaha kanaka tarahu. So this was seeing. And so the question came up later from Abdurrahim John about hearing. And Ibn Arabi, he comments on this hadith and account by using a verse. وَإِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَ لَمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ. Surely in this is a true, profound recollection, remembrance for anyone who has a heart, implying that it would be possible to not have a heart, or to not have a functioning heart. And then I realized as he was asking me the question that I hadn't translated or hadn't quoted the second half of the very verse Ibn Arabi was reciting, you see, where he says, "Alqa sam'a wa huwa shahid," or in the transcription, وَأَلْقَ سَمْعَهُ. See, so who extends his or her hearing, and he is a witness, meaning either God is a witness through this person, or the person themselves are a witness. So I wanted to, I thought about your question, and when there's some unfinished business, I try to think of the actuality. See, so the actuality of the experience is a domain of synesthesia, where in fact there's the smelling of sounds, there's the sharing of the senses. It is not in fact literal anyway. Normally, when any of the mystics, whether they are Western mystics, Jewish mystics, Christian mystics, the description is that something inexplicable and ineffable has occurred. It is delightful and scary and impossible to describe, because it's a place where everything is rejoining into unity, including the senses. So for that reason, I tried to think of, see the actuality in fact is not so easy to explain. So for example, coming back to try to clarify this point, when in this hadith, and ta'abudullaha kanaka tarahu. And I was explaining, because somebody asked me, they said, well, is that how it is for you? I say, yes, if you say the prayer, you are seeing God. They say, well, how is that for you? I said, well, if I look in front of me, I see certain visual manifestations, but that's not the part that's important. The part that's important is that the seeing is actually taking place in here, or the hearing is taking place in here. And there's a break in the usual separation. So very often in the poetry and the sayings of the mystics, they describe how something that they used to experience outside, like a call of a bird, they are suddenly realizing it's taking place inside of them somehow, or that they are somehow merged with the whole, so that it seems this way. So that's the point I'd like to make of departure, is that we can turn to Shabastari, where he is going to look at the question of Hallaj. So, who is Hallaj? Rahab John, who is Hallaj? Who is he historically? Who is Hallaj?
Well, he's a man who was born in Iran, and he was a mystic, and he traveled around the world and learned and moved to Iraq at some point, and was able to understand that there is no separation.
What does Hallaj mean?
It's the person who does the cotton, weaver of cotton in Arabic.
Yeah. So it could be the weaver, or it could be the person who is combing the cotton,
yes,
carding the cotton, we say in English. And so Shabastari, he wants to address this question. It turns out that he's actually going to address the question of blasphemy, but by talking about hearing. You see, I was trying to get in the universe of Sufi lore, I was trying to think about the most amusing and interesting arguments and proofs about ineffable realities, okay? And so we have the idea, normally in Islamic spirituality, of the idea of polishing the mirror. Is this based on a Quranic verse or verses? What's the Quranic verse?
All I remember is about the rust being on the heart.
So there's several places, but for example, one of them is Rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun. So what they have been piling up has created a verdigris, or rust, upon their hearts. So there we have the image in the domain of experience, because when they talk about the heart, they would be talking about a most fundamental level of awareness that the human being has that might be captured by interest in virtually anything, because the whole idea of qalb is that it's capable of change, and it can be attracted to things of the world, and it could be attracted to the spiritual world. But in order to become effectively operational, it would have to deal somehow with this issue of what has been accumulated. So what's amusing about Shabastari's argument is he says that if you want to understand the reality of Hallaj, who, as Ms. Hallaj over here has just pointed out to us, is that it's a cotton carder, somebody who is either weaving or teasing or carding cotton, Shabbatari says you would have to pull the cotton out of your ears. You see? So I liked this image because inherent in the name is very often the Sufi personality. In some cases, the person is actually a theologian, but they take a name that is a mark of humility, but also the sign of choosing a humble way of life. So, for example, one of the great Naqshbandi theologians later became known as Amir Kulab, so it was the potter. And he really did it. It wasn't just like an affectation, huh? Salam Sakitan. And so, but I liked this image very much. I thought it was very amusing when I read this. And so I thought I would be able to address Abdurrahim John's question a little bit more deeply by just reading this passage and sharing this. So since this is a presentation that we hope to share with viewers, many of the viewers are from the Persian-speaking world. And so I read the Persian Arabic, and I try to read it in passages of a length that I can then come to the English without it being too tedious for all of you. Huh? And so where I'm going to begin, I am using this book, which is the commentary. This is the Mafate al-Ijaz fi Shari Gulshan Ras. So the keys to the inimitable eloquence in the elucidation of the Garden of Mystery. And I have a little bit of experience with this work, having made one of the several translations. And so I think what I'll do is I'll read to you the lines that I would like to review with you. And so what I'd like to do is it's so close to the beginning. So what Rahaf John was saying about Hallaj is that because he was famous because he said something very strange. He said, Ana al-Haq. Dangerous thing to say in that part of the world. He says, I am the true reality. And he was accused of blasphemy, not surprisingly. And Shabbatari says, Ana al-Haq is a complete unveiling of the secrets, except for the Haq, except for the real. Who can say I am the real? Only the real can say I am the real, see? Or I am God. Only God can say I am God. All of the atoms of the world, just like Mansur Hallaj, you should take as ecstatic and drunk. So all the atoms are drunk, see, not just Hallaj, because drunkenness is a code for spiritually ecstatic. So in this culture, like in our culture, we might say stoned. And it could either mean the person was really like stoned, or it might be they were having a spiritual experience and they could use the word stoned. Huh? In this case, they're using wine. Huh? These atoms, they're ever in glorifying and exalting God, subsisting in the true meaning of I am the real. Now where I'm going to start the commentary is the next line. If you want this to become easy for you to understand this paradox, recite the verse, everything is praising God. Once you have carded the cotton of yourself, you too, like Hallaj, will breathe such words as these. I'm expanding a bit on the translation here. Pluck from your ears the cotton of illusion. Listen to the call of the One, the All-Powerful. That call is coming from the real without pause. Why do you wait for the day of resurrection? So this is those last few lines are the commentary. I'll keep this out here. So we start with the first line of the commentary. Again, if you'll be with your patience, I'll be reciting the Persian for the sake of the viewers, and then go to the English. So he says, Agar khwahi ke gardad bar tu asan wa in min shay'in ra yek ra furukhan. Yani agar چنانچه میخواهی که بدانی که ذرات ببخشید یعنی اگر چنانچه میخواهی که بدانی که ذرات عالم مسبحند و تنزیه حق از مشارکت می نمایند آیت کریمه و این من شیئین الا یسبح بحمده یک بار بخوان تا بدانی که همه در تسبیحند و تنزیتام چنانچه مذکور گشت آن است که ناطق و انانیت انا کردند و حمد اظهار صفات کمال الهی است پس حمد هر یکی اظهار آن صفت باشد که خود مظهر آن صفت است و حامد حق و جمعی صفات غیر از انسان نمیتوان بود زیرا که عارف حق و جمعی صفات اوست. So he says, if you, like the first line, if you want this to become easy for you, recite the verse, everything is praising God. Commentary. In other words, if it is such that you wish to know how it is that all the atoms of the world are glorifying God and exalting Him above association, go and read the ayah, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So literally, and there is not a thing except that it is praising God. And in a more complete sense, it says, لَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ. But you are not comprehending that it is praising God. So he says, say this and know until you know that everything is praising and glorifying and exalting. And the most complete exaltation is such as has been previously pointed out in this book. Complete exaltation and glorification is such that the speaker should express this in the form of self-worship by saying, I am the true reality, rather than He is the true reality, for example. And praise and thanks, which is hamd, is the showing, or is the manifestation of the perfect qualities and attributes of God. Thus, the praise and glorification of each one is the manifestation of that particular quality that is inherent as the showplace for that divine quality. And the praising and glorification of God through all of the qualities cannot be attained or achieved except through the human reality, because the true knower of reality in its fullness is equipped with all of the divine names, meaning it's inherently equipped with all of the divine names. So this is the first line, and the thing that I would like to add to this, I've talked about before with some of you, and I would like to look at this a little bit with you from the Sufi point of view. And I'm going to, again, resort to a system of Sufi commentary and overlay in the understanding of the particular concept or doctrine. And so what we want to understand is, first of all, if we think about what he's saying, so we could take it on trust. There is not a thing, in men shay'in, there is not a thing, a particle, bar of soap, a table, human being, there is not a thing, in men shay'in, illa yusabihu bihamdihi, except that it is praising God. See? وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُ, but you are not able to comprehend it. So, okay, I guess I would have to take it on trust. I've taken on trust that everything is praising God. Or the Sufis say, no, you don't have to take it on trust. You can experience this. You could develop a consciousness that allows you to see that every leaf is praising God, every atom is praising God, that everything is praising God. And so the way that they consider this is that there'll be, so praising in the sense of thanking and praising is hamd, you see? Because he's focusing on this verse, but he's interested in particular in the idea of hamd. Huh? And God has a divine name. What's his divine name for this? Hamid. Huh? Hamid. He has other names, but very specifically, this is Hamid. Huh? Okay, Hamid. Now, Abjad for Hamid, 8, 40, 10, 4. 62, yes. 62. 62. And the Sufis, they are looking, they're not looking to create false metaphysics or something. They're looking for associations that have the right mnemonic and right resonance with the doctrine that they're looking at. They don't claim one way or another that they're right about. They're just noticing the obvious, you see. So so we have another word, huh? Is this one of the names? Yeah. What's this mean? Something hidden. And in fact, do we see it in some important verses? How about Sabbaha lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard wa huwa al-azizul hakim lahu mulku samawati wal ard yuhyi wa yumitu, right? Huwa al-awwalu wal akhiru wa zahiru wal batin, correct? And then wa huwa ala kulli shay'in alim, huh? So Batin means implicit, inherent, hidden. In this context, we have the idea of implicit. This equals, huh? So we have 2, 1, 9, and 50. See? So this is a Sufi system of making associations. And the association here is to understand that inherently, the reason the atoms are all praising God is because inherently and implicitly, they are God. See? Because if God says, Huwa al-awalu wal-akhiru wa-zahiru wal-batin, because God says, speaking of himself, he often says he. For the pronouns he may use as he is the first and the last, and he is the outer and the inner. And you can imagine the theologians having a field day with this one. But if you take it just literally for what God is saying, he's saying he is the reality of all of these things. But in the hidden reality, what the Sufis wish to say here is he is one, always, he is Hamid. He is Hamid. See? He is praiseworthy. Correct? He is Hamid. He is praiseworthy. And so what I've explained before, including in gatherings at Threshold and so forth, is that this is the essence of the matter, and a person could become Abdul Hamid, but they could also become Mahmud. So in other words, you can become the servant of Hamid, and you can become Abdul Hamid, you can become Mahmud, which is praiseworthy. You can become Hamed, you see, somebody who is praising. But Hamid is God's inherent property, being praiseworthy. But he is himself praising himself in every second and every moment. And who would know better than he that everything is praising? And the commentator says, and yes, and praising through a specific quality. The thorn is praising in a different way, because the doctrine is very beautiful. The doctrine says everything is just as it is. Vicious, beautiful, loving, vengeful. They are inherently what they are. And at a profound level, they are all praiseworthy, because they are actualizing the names, the divine names. And the divine names, in case they seem strange or odd to you, I don't know if any of you have read the Bhagavad Gita, but if you read the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Indian, one of the great Indian holy books, which is basically found from the story in the Mahabharata, Arjuna is crestfallen. He has to fight his own relatives. And he's sad and depressed, and Krishna comes forward, and Krishna is a God incarnate. And he says, let me ease your mind. Let me ease your mind. This is your job. You must do this. They've all assembled out there. And he says, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Krishna says, listen, I've decided to kill them all anyway. You can read for yourself. This is like, what? This is a spiritual, this is a great holy book. Krishna, who is the God incarnate, says, I've decided to kill them all anyway. So you better just get with the program and not be so sad. This is part of the nature of things. There's creation, there's destruction. Meaning this is, in every realistic metaphysics of the world, if it's not going to be dualistic, then the true reality has to be the origin in one way or another of all of the things that we experience, whether it's through privation, as in the privation of good, could be evil, but not that there could be an actual struggle for evil, which is often what happens in people's mind, dualistic mind, whether they're Christian or Muslim or not. So So this is the metaphysics of Tawheed and of Wahadat, and therefore all things are praising, because he is praising at the internal implicit level. See, this equals this, abjad. So the Sufis make this connection, okay? And so before we go to any question, I'm going to do one more commentary, one more line, and then we can take a moment of question, because that way there'll be more information to talk about. So this next line, the English was, once you have carded the cotton of yourself, you too, like Hallaj, will breathe such words. چو کردی خویشتن را پنبکاری، تو هم حلاجوار این دم برآری. بدان که توحید علمی نوع دیگر است و توحید عیانی شهودی نوع دیگر. توحید علمی آن است که بدانند که غیر از حق هیچ موجود نیست و اشیا مظاهر حقند و به صورت همه اوست که ظاهر گشت است و اشیا با زبان حال ناطق با کلمه انا الحقند، بر آن معنا که قائم با وجود حقند و به او عدمند. و اما توحید عیانی کشفی که بر منصور حلاج ظاهر گشته است، چنانچه مکررن ذکر آن رفت، موقوف بدان است که سالک به طریق تصفیه و مقامی برسد که تعین و هستی مجازی وی که پرده جمال الهی گشته مانع مشاهده بود، محو و فانی گشته به خود خود را حق دیده با لسان حق ناطق با نطق انا الحق گردد. و لحاظا فرمود که چو کردی خویشتن را پنبکاری، یعنی چون وجود خیالی خود را بر هم زدی و از هم فرو ریختی و از قید تعین و کثافت خلاص یافتی، هر آینه که تو نیز مانند منصور این دم انا الحق برآری و به عمل حلاجی ناطق با نطق وی گردد. So, here he says, you should understand that the issue here is going to be again about duality or unity. And he's interested in explaining what we just talked about, unity. Either it's a dualistic system that's perfectly, it's not implausible, it's just a question. You wish the one or the other one, it's up to you. There's nothing there, there's a unity there, there's dual, but this view is a Unitarian view. The source of all things, good and bad, coming from one source. And this understanding of this and arriving at this understanding is called Tawheed, because he is already Wahed, he is already Ahad in the divine names, and Tawheed is the actualization at some level, mental understanding, personal experiential understand that everything is one. This is not at all unique to Sufism. This is the purpose of Zen Buddhism. This is the purpose of Advaita. This is many of these traditions, they choose that they're Unitarian traditions. And so here he's starting immediately with this word. He says, you should know that there is the mental tawhid, meaning there's a mental unification, or unification at the level of knowledge. It's one kind, and you should know that there is unification that is shuhudi, meaning it is in your consciousness you've achieved unification. In your awareness, it's ayani. It is seen by you, it is witnessed by you, and it is known in your very consciousness that there's only one thing. This would, again, if you say there's no distinction here between the Sufi mystic at that moment and one of the great Chinese or Japanese Zen Buddhists. There's no distinction whatsoever. They have the same idea. They realize suddenly the duality was a myth, and it suddenly vanishes. And they realize there was only one event, one consciousness, etc. So he says, in more detail, the mental unification is such that people come to know that other than the true reality, there is no other reality or existence. And the things are the show places. The word is mazaher, so there's zuhur, which means the manifestation, the appearance, but they have to have a place to appear in. So these would be like mirrors, theaters, show places. So literally it would be show places, which is fine. Huh? And so he says the person at a mental level comes to know that except for the haq, through consideration, through careful consideration, there's no other existence, and that the things, they are the show places of true reality. And it is through the forms of all of these things, it is he, meaning true reality, it is it that has appeared and manifested. And the things, ashya, which were part of the verse quoted earlier, by, he says, through the tongue of their state, bazaban hal, through the tongue of their state, they are speaking the words, I am the true reality. Each and everything is essentially saying, I am the true reality. Because if not, there would be another reality alongside of it. See? So the person has grasped the idea philosophically. It is not impossible in Sufism nor in other traditions that a person could have a limited or partial awakening. In any of the mystical tradition, they could have a complete awakening, or they could have a partial awakening. A partial awakening might prepare them for a complete awakening. So partial awakening, maybe such a thing is here. Because Shavasari acknowledges throughout, which not all of the Sufi mystics do, he acknowledges that there is a place for the light of reason, he calls it. See? So elsewhere in the book, he describes the light of reason, meaning of mind, and he talks about the light of revelation. See, so two different kinds of experiences. So here he's following in that pattern, and he says the things are then saying, because he got to this is the ayani, this is the one that the person has actually experienced it. He says through the the tongue of their state, they are saying an al-haq, in the sense that they are sustained by the existence of reality. And without that sustaining, they are utter non-being. They have no existence. So that was the first one, where there's an experience, but it's a partial awakening. And he says now the greater awakening, or the unification that is directly witnessed and filling one's consciousness and one's experience, and happens through disclosure, kashf. He says this is the state of Mansur Hallaj. It's the greater awakening, see? Greater awakening. This manifested in Hallaj, and like has been repeated again and again in this book, because Hallaj will come up all over in Sufism because it's one of the hottest subjects in the controversy between Islamic mysticism versus Muslim belief at the level of practice. It's the same thing as the difference between the level of obeying God versus the level of intimately loving and interacting with God. So these are controversies that have been from the beginning in the religion, and as I said, not just the religion of Islam. So he says, since there's been many times talked about in this book, it's based upon Malkuf Badan. See, so it is based upon the fact that the seeker, Salek, traveler, spiritual traveler, by way of purification, tasfiyah, reaches a stage, maqami, in which its entity, and we could say its individuality, its existence, illusory existence, which had been the veil of had been preventing, because it was veiling the divine beauty. Because in all cases this would be about discovering the origin of beauty, discovering the origin of beauty. See? So, and this individuation, this entity, self-entity, imaginary existence, has been preventing, he says, preventing the witnessing of this beauty. And when it becomes effaced and annihilated through this loss of self-objectification, the awareness is witnessing directly the true reality, the haq. And necessarily through the voice of the haq, through the speech of the haq, this person says, I am the true reality. Obviously because it has no other frame of reference. So again, mysticism does not propose the passing out with no knowledge, except that the clock has moved its arms. It proposes that there is the continuity of experience of a completely different order. There's experience, but it is not experienced through the limitation of one's familiar personhood. Another way we could say it is this is the outshining. One's normal way of understanding and seeing an experience is outshined by this experience. So therefore, that is why the poet says, once you have carted away from yourself the cotton of self, and he says, in other words, when the imaginary existence that you had, you have caused its illusion to collapse. You've destroyed the illusion. And it has withered away or drained away. It is dissipated. And once you have found escape, you have escaped from the grip of illusory entity, self-entity, certainly then you also, like Mansur Hallaj, you have no option. You will say these words, I am the true reality. And you will take up the work of the cotton carder. You see? So this is the end of the second line of the 4 lines. So at this point, there may be a question or a comment or whatever. Does anybody have something? Yes? No? Yes? Yes.
In the past, you've talked about this, and I guess I haven't really completely understood. You've said that that state being described is the highest, but then you would add it's not the most complete.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so in Sufism, you know, I always like it when there's visitors, so we have Kay over here, and there's a young monk, and he goes to the temple because he hears there's a great master there, and he wants to meet the master, and of course there's always the formality and the hospitality, so there's he brings the tea, and he starts pouring the tea. He keeps pouring and pouring and pouring tea. The cup is overflowing, and he continues to pour the tea. See? And so he's explaining something, you know. And the idea is in many ways, in many cultural contexts, it has to do with the container. In this case, the person is a kind of theater, container, place where something can be held. And but in many versions of this story, they will simply say, go and wash the bowl, then serve the food. You see? Because the problem is even the residue is, it turns out, it's very bitter. It's very problematical because let's use some psychological language also. Everything is based on awareness in this work, and it doesn't matter to the Sufi whether we are using Muslim terms or any terms. The objective is an actuality. The actuality is you have to try to regather your awareness, which was like quicksilver that you have thrown out onto the floor and it is scattered everywhere. And it's reflecting everything from all over. And you have to try, which is not that hard because it likes to come back together, but you have to bring quicksilver back together. And if you can do this, but if you fail to bring even one drop of the quicksilver back, it is still reflecting some other reality. So this, fana or annihilation, is called jam. sometimes. Meaning the idea of gathering or bringing unity. See, there's unity through decimation, and another kind of unity is through gathering together as one. They actually, it turns out, they're the same thing, just from a different angle, But since it's valuable to think of images and psychological ideas, think of this idea of the quicksilver. And the human being does not realize that it has become acclimated to a profound and massive kind of multitasking that is about their awareness being spent in the form of the things that it happens to attach itself to. So awareness attaches itself to things. And the Sufis say that you become that thing which you are aware of. So if you wish to be aware of God, you must bring it back and you must keep your focus, say, on God. We don't have to say God. We could say there is a level of awareness of which the quicksilver, let's call it reflectivity in the language of light. The quicksilver in the dark is it might have a lovely sound, but if there's not even moonlight, you would not be aware of its capacity. So necessarily, the beauty and the ability of the quicksilver to activate its attraction to one thing or another in the sense of reflection is due to the visibility of the thing that it is attracted to. And this is caused by light. Shadows are a domain between light and darkness, and they are they would be a domain that this domain is called Nasut. That's your address, man, is Nasut, see? So you live in the domain of shadows, you see. So that's the thing, is to understand that we live in the domain of shadows. The only domain beyond that are worlds of annihilation, despair, underworlds, etc. But isn't this enough of a hell? So the reason it is such a hell is precisely what we're talking about now, you see? So there's enough light and there's enough scattering of awareness that it is. So if we look at it in this mythical and psychological fashion, we understand that the first thing one has to do is to bring the beads of awareness back, and they really must be brought back fully. If we go to the image of the cup, we'd say you have to wash it out fully, because the water that's going to be put into it is so pure. Have you never had a cup and you're thinking, what a shame they use soap? I can taste the soap. Isn't that horrible? You're tasting the soap and you're having, like, supposedly the best coffee or the best whatever, and you taste the soap and you're thinking, now that's a paradox. It's sort of like the religious fanaticism, isn't it? They give you so much of the religion, you don't get to enjoy the product anymore, you see. So the point is that the practical thing is to grasp in a very practical way. I go into my meditation or my zikr, and I am the master of a certain level of awareness. The animals have awareness, the insects have awareness, the trees have awareness, and the rocks have awareness according to the Sufis. Everything has awareness. But the human being, as he said earlier, is the one who has a very great amount of awareness. If you wish, you say, because it has a bigger brain, or some of the Sufis, they don't argue that tongues are doing the speaking, but they just say the ideas are otherwise. And the same, the Sufis, they say, we don't care how you wish to phrase this, but you should grasp that you have a certain amount of awareness. If you can clarify your awareness in a steady and sustained manner, and start to bring the beads back, because the scatteredness is called jadai, you see, And doesn't Rumi start his poem this way? No? Does he say just one separation, or what does he say? He says all Judoi Ha is all the separations. See, there's so many separations, so many stories, so many illusions, so many self-deceptions, which lead to deceptions. So this clarifying, you know, and bringing back together, it arrives at a point that is very easy to talk about, but is hard to explain. And it is the field of vision with no eye. Massive awareness, vast awareness, because the human awareness is the closest thing to this divine awareness. So they merge, they join, you see. And Rumi, as I explained to, I think maybe this morning, to the young man, I said, he says, an hesi ke haq bar an hes mushar ast, nist hesi in jahan an digar ast. It says that sense, meaning that perception, that is able, that through that perception the true reality becomes apprehended, is not a sense or perception of this world, it is of the other world. Meaning there are senses that are from Nasut, the shadow world, and Rumi calls them copper. And then there are senses from the other world, and he calls them gold. He says you should learn the difference between gold and copper. And similarly, more importantly for the image I'm trying to convey to you, he, as I explained this morning, he says that if the perceptions are like animals, like horses, he says, Suye hesirao ke nuresh ra kevast, hes ra on nure niku sahebast. Nure hesra, nure haq tazin buvad, ma'ani nurun ala nur in buvad. So he says, go with, meaning put all your energy, all your focus in that sense, which are horses in this imagery, for whom the sublime light is its rider. See? For that sense, that you have that perception, that you have focused in that way, that sublime light will become its master, that beautiful light will become its master. The light of your human perception will be unimaginably enhanced and beautified by the ultimate light, by the true light. And this is the meaning, the true meaning of the very famous, maybe the most famous Quranic statement, light upon light. See? So he's saying what we're talking about right now, light upon light. So you have some light. What is this light? It's called awareness. You have a little bit of light. He said, if you focus this, you will attract the rider to this light. So you have your awareness, you're doing everything you can. You're having a nervous breakdown, you're having this, lose your job, blah, blah, blah. You say, oh, you know, this is a big problem, but I got to bring these beads in together over here, see? So I'm going to find some way to do that. Hopefully find a new job, you know, new relationship, whatever it is, but get your act together in the human world, because it will help, see? The idea of going off to the cave is not the Islamic path, is not the way of fullness that you were asking, because I'm trying to answer your question. That first you have to do this, which is the highest level. Highest level means the cleanest level. Because then the minute you see that it was all awareness, you realize that you have activated an instrument, that this is all a bio-instrumentation. You realize the strange sci-fi reality, that all along it was a bio-instrumentation. And it was about awareness. And you are shocked and amazed. And you come back. You have no way to sustain the energy the beauty, the vastness, it's breaking you at the same time. See? So like Muhammad is hearing the ringing of the bells, he's in pain. See, at some point, ecstasy can become pain. And so you return. You say, I need, I'm a human being, I can only sustain so much of this. So then the other journey after that is you continue to have access to that domain, but that was the highest level, but not the most complete level. Now the most complete level is you come back to the human level and you live out your life. You know the secret of the thing, and you choose carefully, and you watch carefully what are the resonances between you and the divine names. Like, let's say you were a great general. You probably will end up in a war, because that is your assigned powerful characteristic. See, hopefully it is more loving and merciful. You have merciful, loving, and this means you expose yourself to pain. But better to be exposed to pain with knowledge and awareness, so that you understand whose pain it is. You see? You understand the tragedy of the universe as well as the beauty and the ups. You see, so it's all about awareness. And it's not about religion, it's not about the dogma. It was all an instrumentation. See? It's very strange, but this is the truth. Yes?
This is kind of adding on to what you're saying to Yahya John, and also something you said that was really beautiful a couple weeks ago about God is experiencing with you. You were mentioning like the pain and this.
The thing, think about the two lines we've looked at. He's saying that inherent, implicit in every single thing, there is this glorification. I mean, there's no exception, because when in Quran, when he says shay'in, and here he's made it very, very clear. See? وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So it's very clear, very accurate. There's not a thing except that it is implicitly praising. And I explained, I showed you the abjad so that you would understand. So implicitly it is sacred. There's the sunshine in the filthy sewage puddle. The image of the sun is sacred and beautiful and bright, and never will the sewage make it dirty. Agreed? So there is going to be mortality, limitation, but all along in every case, if there is experience, it must by definition be divine experience. Or if you don't like the word divine, we say holistic, complete experience, which is intercommunicative, self-arising, always interrelated, always arising and destroying itself endlessly forever through all universes. See? That's what it is. It's all about awareness. And therefore always the divine is sharing with you. You cannot escape it because you are it. Even if you're blind by it. See? This is the idea. It's very beautiful. Because it allows you to appreciate your sadness and your tragedy as well. And good, it's good. Anybody else? Yes?
So you're talking about the awareness right now, and then earlier you had said something about the grand awakening and how it happens through disclosure. So what is the difference between awareness and disclosure? What do you mean by disclosure? There's self-disclosure to self. What does that mean?
Well, one of the problems is going to be the language they're using, see. And so there's a problem of translation. And so, for example, when God generally speaks about in the, for example, the very famous verse in Quran about Moses, huh? And Moses says, show yourself to me, huh? And God says, you cannot see me. He says, look at this mountain over here. If it is able to stay in place, then you'll be able to see me. So then in Quran itself, God says to فَلَمَا تَجَلَى رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ جَعَلَهُ دَكًّا وَحَرَّ مُوسَى صَاعِقًا. This is the Arabic. Huh? So God says that some very good translators, they choose certain terminology, like Chittick. Have you heard of William Chittick? So he likes to say self-disclosure. See? Self-disclosure. I know it sounds funny in a way, doesn't it? Like I still like this the idea of his showing his manifestation or so forth. But I'm often trying to link the common language now used in the translation of these metaphysical and spiritual ideas, so that somewhere it's like fishing and you catch everybody hopefully in the process. But it's also confusing. I agree. It's a little bit confusing. So the idea is that at all times there is a hiding and a showing. The showing is always in relationship to the locus of manifestation. Let's call it the show place. And this could be compared to a house of circus mirrors. You walk by and you realize in one mirror you are very tall. In another mirror you are very stretched out. And you know that it is you. Agreed? And then you look in the mirror and you're laughing and enjoying yourself, and you are experiencing, imagine you're experiencing billions upon billions of examples of this. Now consider something interesting. There is you, and there is the mirror. Inherent in the mirror is the capacity to reflect in a certain way. There is a third thing. It is called a reflection. It is neither the person nor it is the mirror. Agree? That illusion is this cosmos. See, if you want to think about how is the cosmos viewed by the Sufis, it is neither the person looking, nor is it the mirror. It is actually what is revealed between them. And it will vary, you see, so the self-disclosure is affected by the place that it is being disclosed in, see? And in so many facets, some hideous, some beautiful. Agreed? So disclosure is a word that some of the translators, they like to use, okay? For us, that would be like a legal term, wouldn't it? So, anybody else? I'm afraid that we're not getting very far because it's already it's already it's almost time, huh? So what it means is this will be part one, huh? Because there's so much material. It's very dense. It's very thick material, isn't it? But again, Abdurrahman John had this question because we haven't gotten up to the sort of amusing idea that you'd be pulling the cotton out of your ears so that you could hear. I'd like to finish on that by saying to you that remember, it is not conveyable except through metaphor, analogy. Doesn't mean, like, as you show a lot of analogy to people, they will get it, huh? See, so they will get it. So if I say, there's this, see? There's this, see? There's this, and there's this. What am I trying to tell you?
There's two things.
No.
Oh.
They're both round.
They're round.
Oh.
See? So you'll get it. Eventually you will get it.
Yeah.
Because we take two totally different things and show it to you, and then you'll grasp an abstract thing. So the Sufis, they can only work that way, because it's impossible to explain to a mind obsessed with form and buried in a certain kind of, let's call it vulgar logic, to bring them to the level of, say, the absolutes, including roundness, that affects so many things, although frankly very few things in nature, but they are there, notably the planets and so forth, are somewhat round. And so there's the thing that I want to come back to, though, is to understand that words like hearing and seeing do not do justice, because this is a domain when all of the perceptions have merged. Unity requires that they merge. So it is shocking. It is hard to accept, because you're going into it. So it'd be like if you were in physics. It's like you've arrived at what's called the event horizon of physics, the black hole, and you already know you can't. You see, there's this place beyond which everything is absorbed and then spewed out in transformed fashion. There, in human experience, there is nothing comparable, which is odd because the whole bioinstrumentation this is why the human is what it is. See? So it doesn't even know what its function was. See? So its function is it's part of a net of awareness throughout all the universe. See? It is a connecting locus of awareness that is infusing awareness and absorbing awareness all around it. This is the truth, you see. But we like to put it in devotional language because it involves love, the love of life, energy, creation, destruction. Not ours, the entity, the universes, you see. And we have like shadow versions of this. And they allow us to relate to it to some extent, see? This is like a massive, like the talks we've done this year involve this, huh?
Yeah.
So we have ecstasy, the one on divine love and ecstasy, huh? See, that one is very much about this. But again, Yahya's point is, well, what about being a human being? You get to be the real human being. You get to be mortal, knowing that this is the case. And as Omar Khayyam, who we say is a Sufi, he says, when I think of my death, I smile. You notice he smiles because he's aware, he's not scared, he already understands, yes. Yes?
Isn't there a verse also in the Quran that when you were talking, it just reminded me of it when God is describing the people and he's saying, Summun bukmun amiyun fahum la yafhamun.
Yeah, so they're yes, exactly. Quran throughout says their hearts have an illness.
Yeah.
Says, bring me a sound heart, etc. He says some of them, they are hearing, you see. Meaning, I'm not proposing we drop religious language or association. The problem with pure metaphysics or pure analogy or psychological language is that there's a certain fuel in the element of compassion and love and intimacy. And that's no surprise because the whole universe is actually based on intimacy. So like in Taoism and in some Buddhism, they speak about, it's very nice because they don't attribute it to beings. They just say they discover intimacy. So I think it's wonderful. You see? So this is so excellent because they say they just discover the massive intimacy of the reality. Everything arising, interacting, and so forth. They've correctly described it. See, and we might say, you know, wujuhun yawma ezin nadira ila rabbiha nazira. Huh? Najajan? Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean? Wujuhun yawma ezin nadira ila rabbiha nazira. What does it mean? So it means the faces of some of them on that day, like why is Omar Khayyam smiling? This, on that day, their faces, they will be luminous, bright. They are looking upon their Lord, their specific Lord. See, they are seeing directly their specific Lord. See. So this is in the realm of the religious language. The Muslim Sufi is not trying to escape his or her religion. They're merely trying to get to the heart of their religion, see? The truth about their religion. That it is very vast, actually, see?